All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're diving into a pretty intense mind, David Goggins.
Intense is a good word for him.
Yeah, this guy went from like serious poverty and abuse as a kid to, Navy SEAL, ultra marathon runner.
He really does kind of define what we think is possible, doesn't he?
Totally. So we're going to be digging into his book, Can't Hurt Me, trying to understand how he did it. And, more importantly, maybe like what can we take away from it for ourselves?
What I think is so interesting about Goggins is that he's so upfront about it. Like, he doesn't attribute his success to any, natural talent or getting lucky. It's all about hard work and this thing he calls callosing the mind.
Right. And to even understand like what callousing the mind even means, you really got to start with where he came from.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, his childhood was, to put it mildly, rough.
Understatement of the year, maybe.
He literally calls his home on Paradise Row hell and his dad the devil himself. And he doesn't just like throw that language around. Like he goes into some seriously graphic detail about the abuse, both physical and mental that he and his mom suffered from his dad.
I mean, it's heavy stuff. But I think to really get Goggins, we need to understand the impact that kind of trauma has on a person.
Totally.
Like, it doesn't just go away, right? It shapes how you see yourself, the world, what you think you're capable of.
He talks about being forced to work all night at his dad's roller rink, seeing his mom getting beaten, even like being made to lie naked on a bed waiting for a beating.
That's just, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's intense. And like, it's clear that created this deep sense of fear and instability for him.
Absolutely. And that's where his whole bad hand idea comes in. He believes we're all dealt a hand in life.
Some better than others.
Right. But it's not about the cards you get. It's how you play them.
So how did Goggins play his bad hand?
Well, he was dealt a particularly bad one. It would have been easy for him to, just give in to that darkness, let it define him.
And he almost did, right? He talks about running away in the middle of the night with his mom and brother, ending up broke in Brazil, Indiana.
Wow.
And even escaping that situation, he still carried all that trauma with him. I mean, he even admits to like cheating his way through high school.
Really?
Yeah, it was like this reflection of his insecurities, and this lack of belief in himself.
It's interesting, though, because even in that, you see this, early resilience.
Oh, you mean?
Yeah, he knew he had this bad hand, this darkness inside him. But instead of letting it consume him, he started looking for a way out.
So what was his way out?
Well, for Goggins, it was purpose.
You're talking about him joining the Air Force, right? And then later the Navy SEALs.
Exactly. For him, the military wasn't about patriotism or, duty at first. It was about escaping the life he saw for himself.
Makes sense. He was working as an exterminator, overweight, and he says utterly lost.
I can see that.
And then he sees this documentary about Navy SEALs. It's like a lightning bolt.
Total. It sparked this desire for something more, a challenge to push him and prove himself.
There's this really powerful moment in the book where he's like, working, seeing roaches, and he realizes he's living like one.
Oh, wow.
Hiding in the dark, afraid to face his potential. That night, he forces himself to go for a run, his first in over a year.
That's amazing.
Only makes it 400 yards before collapsing. But that run, short as it was symbolic.
How so?
He realized he had a choice, stay stuck or fight his way out.
And he chose to fight.
And that's where the purpose kicks in. He's not just running from something anymore, he's running towards something.
Becoming a better version of himself.
Exactly. But it wasn't just some vague self-improvement thing. He had a goal, a mission to become a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, he's big on having a clear objective.
Right. It's gives you direction, fuels your resilience, helps you push past your limits.
He even talks about, was it Scott Guerin? The pararescueman?
Yeah, Scott Guerin, he was a role model for Goggins.
Right, and Guerin had this incredible story of survival and dedication. Just saving lives. It showed Goggins what purpose can do.
So for everyone listening, the question becomes, what's your why? What are you running towards?
What goals or aspirations drive you? Because that clarity, that sense of purpose, it's essential for tapping into your own resilience.
And that brings us to one of Goggins' most important concepts, callousing the mind.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting.
He's not about motivation or positive thinking. He thinks real strength comes from seeking out pain and discomfort, like embracing the suck.
He actually uses the analogy of calluses on your hands. If you never use your hands, they stay soft. But if you work them, they get tough, more resilient.
And he takes this to the extreme, right? He talks about Hell Week in SEAL training. Over 130 hours of nonstop physical and mental torture. Most people would break.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
But Goggins, he thrived on it.
It's like he's wired differently.
But here's the thing, he's not into pain for pain's sake. He's doing it because he understands that pushing his limits, embracing that discomfort, it strengthens his mind.
So it's like building mental muscle.
Exactly. And he uses visualization too, right? Like mentally preparing for challenges, picturing himself overcoming obstacles, enduring the pain.
But for Goggins, visualization isn't a replacement for action.
Right. It's more like,
It's a way to get your mind ready for the struggle, to anticipate the resistance and push through it.
so how does someone who's, not trying to be a SEAL apply this callousing the mind thing?
Well, think about your comfort zones, the areas where you avoid discomfort or challenges. Intentionally push yourself there.
Could you give us like a concrete example?
Sure, let's say you're terrified of public speaking. Instead of avoiding it, you could actually seek out chances to speak.
Yeah.
It might be scary at first, even painful, but every time you do it, you're callousing your mind, building resilience against that fear.
So it's like recognizing that discomfort, even pain, can actually help you grow.
If you approach it the right way, it's about changing your perspective, seeing discomfort as an opportunity to get stronger.
And that idea, reframing our relationship with discomfort, it's incredibly powerful. But how do we actually do it? What are some tools we can use?
Well, Goggins has this strategy he calls the cookie jar, and that's something we'll dive into next time. That's a great question, though. Like, how do we actually, deal with setbacks?
Right. Even with the toughest mindset, you're going to fail sometimes.
That's where Goggins' view on failure is so helpful. He doesn't see it as a reason to quit.
It's more a big part of the process, right?
Exactly. A crucial part of growing.
He has a very different way of looking at it than most people. Most people see failure as like a stop sign.
Oh, yeah,
He
totally.
sees it as a detour, maybe even a shortcut to something better.
He embraces failure, almost. Sees it as a chance to learn, adapt, come back stronger.
He has that great line, sometimes you have to break down to break through.
I love that.
And like one of the best examples in the book is when he tries to break the pull-up world record on the Today Show.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
He trained like crazy, visualized himself winning, he was ready, and then he comes up short, live on TV.
Oof, that's got to be tough.
Most people, that would be devastating. But not Goggins.
What did he do?
He didn't blame anyone or anything, didn't blame the equipment, the circumstances, nothing. He owned it.
That's so important, taking responsibility.
Yeah, he analyzed what went wrong, figured out his mistakes, and then used that experience to get better.
He turned it into fuel.
Exactly. And it wasn't a one-time thing either. He talked about getting rejected from Delta Force.
After excelling in SEAL training.
Yep. And again, didn't let it define him, used it as fuel.
It's like he understood that failure wasn't about him not being good enough.
It was a sign that he needed to adjust, learn new skills, keep going.
It's all about having that growth mindset, isn't it? Seeing challenges and setbacks as opportunities.
Totally. And Goggins, he embodies that growth mindset. He's always looking for new challenges, pushing his boundaries, learning from everything.
The good and the bad.
Yeah, and that begs the question, how can we cultivate that kind of mindset?
It's easy to say embrace failure, but actually doing it, that's the tough part.
How do we put it into practice?
Well, Goggins has this strategy. It's called the cookie jar. It's such a useful mental tool.
I love that name. Tell me more about it. What is the cookie jar?
Okay, so picture a jar filled with cookies.
All right, I'm with you.
But these aren't just any cookies. Each one represents a past success, a moment of triumph, a challenge you overcame.
So it's like a collection of all your wins.
Big and small, yeah.
I like it.
The idea is whenever you're facing self-doubt, something tough, you reach into your cookie jar.
And pull out a memory of a win.
Yeah, like a little mental boost, reminding yourself what you're actually capable of.
So what kind of cookies does Goggins have in his jar?
Oh, all sorts. Memories of his military wins, his ultramarathon races, even smaller stuff like graduating high school, passing that ASVAB test. It's about like really acknowledging and celebrating your wins so you can tap into that power later.
I bet that's especially helpful when those negative thoughts creep in. That self-doubt.
Definitely. We all have that inner voice, Goggins calls it, the governor that tries to hold us back, tells us we're not good enough. The cookie jar is like a weapon against that.
So instead of getting stuck in that negative self-talk, we shift our focus to those times we succeeded.
To the times you proved yourself wrong.
That's so practical. It's something we can all start doing right now.
Right. Think about your own cookies. What accomplishments, big or small, can you put in your jar? Maybe it's getting a new job, finishing a tough project, even just getting through a rough week.
It's cool that even those seemingly small things can be powerful cookies. It's all about recognizing your own strength, even in everyday life.
Exactly. And the more you practice this, the easier it becomes to access those memories when you need them. It builds self-belief, helps you push past those mental blocks.
It makes me think about Goggins' approach to ultramarathon running.
Oh, absolutely. Like he didn't just randomly decide to run ultramarathons.
No way.
It was another way to test his limits, to go beyond what he thought was possible. And then cookie jar. It becomes essential in those races.
I remember that story about him running on broken legs.
Yeah, stress fractures during his first 100-mile race. Most people would stop.
Right, call it a day.
He wrapped his feet in duct tape and kept going. It's insane.
It's unbelievable.
It shows you the power of his mind. He was in so much pain, but he used those cookies, those memories, to keep pushing.
I bet in those moments of pain and exhaustion, those mental cookies were a lifesaver.
Oh, for sure. And it's not just about physical endurance. For Goggins, ultra-running is a mental battle, too.
He's fighting that governor the whole way.
Exactly. That voice telling him to quit, that he can't do it, the cookie jar is how he fights back.
He shifts his focus away from the pain and reminds himself of his strength. All those times he proved himself wrong.
It's incredible the willpower he has.
It really is.
But what's important is that Goggins wasn't born with this. It took years of work. He consciously chose to push himself, to embrace discomfort as a way to grow.
It shows that we all have that potential. It's not about being a Navy SEAL or an ultra runner. It's about tapping into that inner strength we all have, pushing past the limits we set for ourselves.
And the best part is, it's not some complicated secret. Goggins gives us these simple strategies that anyone can use, starting right now. So where does all that drive take him after the Navy? Like, what does Goggins do next?
That's what's so cool about him. It's not like he retires from the SEALs and that's it, kicks back, takes it easy. Not Goggin.
Not even close.
He just keeps pushing. Ultramarathons, triathlons, even became a wildland firefighter. It's like he's always searching for the next challenge.
It's wild.
But what's even more interesting is he doesn't just do it for himself. He's become like this motivational speaker, right? Sharing his story, challenging other people to push their own boundaries.
He's a very different kind of motivational speaker.
Oh, yeah, totally.
It's not all like, positive vibes and quick fixes. He's real about it. About the hard work, the discipline, the mental toughness it takes to actually change.
He'll call you out on your BS in a second.
No sugarcoating.
And that's what I think people connect with. It's like he's not just talking, he's living it.
100%. And he keeps growing, too. Like, in the later parts of the book, he talks about reconciling with his brother, Trunis Jr.
Oh, yeah. Their relationship was really messed up from their dad's abuse.
Right. Trunis Jr. stayed with their dad while David and his mom escaped.
You'd think there would be a lot of resentment there.
For sure. But David chose to forgive him.
It shows you how much he's grown, not just physically and mentally, but emotionally, too.
He realized that forgiveness, of others and himself was part of healing, part of growing.
It's a good reminder for all of us, I think. Holding on to anger just holds you back.
Totally. And another example is him being diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder as an adult.
Oh, right.
He talks about how it helped him understand himself better, like why he is the way he is, and ultimately to accept himself.
It's amazing. Everything he accomplished, and he has ASD, it makes you rethink those limitations we put on ourselves.
Like, often we're our own biggest obstacle.
Absolutely. He realized his success wasn't about being superhuman, it was about pushing his mind.
So what's the takeaway from all of this? Like, what can we learn from Goggins?
I think the biggest thing is we're all capable of way more than we think.
Goggins might be extreme, but he gives us this blueprint for unlocking our potential. It's not about becoming a SEAL or running ultramarathons. It's about taking those principles, the self-discipline, the mental toughness, and applying them to our own lives.
Whatever our goals are.
Exactly. He reminds us that we have a choice.
Let our circumstances define us or take control and create the life we want.
Find your why. Callous your mind. Push past those limits you set for yourself.
It's not about some big external achievement either. It's about the journey, about constantly trying to become better.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a little challenge.
Ooh, I like it.
What's one small step you can take today to start callousing your own mind?
Maybe facing a fear, pushing a little harder in your workout, tackling that thing you've been putting off.
Doesn't have to be perfect. Just make progress. Embrace the discomfort. Push past your governor. See what you can do.
And if you're feeling really ambitious, try Goggins Challenge, #7.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
Push past your normal stopping point in anything you do by like 5–10%. See what happens when you choose to go beyond what you thought you could.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the mind of David Goggins. It's an inspiring story, a reminder that we all have the power to change.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. What resonated with you? What challenges are you going to take on? Share your insights and keep pushing those limits. Thanks for listening.